Howdy, everybody. It's Tricely here with the Disruptive Technology Hangout. I'm joined by Dan, and I love his email. I just sent him an email, and his Solar Dan. I can't remember what number it is, but that's pretty cool. So Dan's part of our mastermind for King Sunshine Solar Systems, and we're just waiting. Larry should be hopping on here with us any minute. So yeah, Dan's been instrumental in this most recent test that we had. If you're looking at the post or any of the pages where you were invited to join us on the Hangout, you've probably seen some information about King Sunshine Solar Systems and our prototype. And Larry's going to be joining us in a few short minutes, and him and Dan are going to tell us about their successful tests that they had on Saturday. And it was our most successful test to date thus far, so that's exciting. Dan, do you want to go ahead and tell me like your perspective of how the test went? Because Larry kind of already told me his, but I didn't get to be present for it. So what did you think of what you guys achieved on Saturday?
Well, it's only the second time I watched the test, but Larry said it was the most millivolts we've got at 4 o'clock in the afternoon with the system. We're producing a lot of heat. And just as much as I know about it, it tracked the sun, and then we got it up to I think over 300 Fahrenheit. Pretty consistent. And then I just
awesome.
go ahead. Of course, it was on 4 o'clock is what the clouds left the sun, so we finally got full sun at 4 o'clock. So it's not the best sun, but apparently it was the best test we've had at that time of day, which is encouraging.
Yeah, it is very encouraging, especially for me, because Dan's just joined us within the last year, and me and Larry have been working on this for like 7 years, just about now. And there's like been so many experiences with leaks and fires, and so to have it just do what it's supposed to do and make a whole bunch of hot fluid and create electricity, that's just awesome. So if anybody's out there that's watching this and wondering, well, what are they talking about, if somehow you just wound up on this, maybe it's a video now on YouTube that you're watching. Just to let you know, we have King Sunshine Solar Systems has developed a prototype that uses something called a Fresnel lens, which is like a giant magnifying glass. And as Dan was describing, it tracks the sun when it's out from behind the clouds. Anyway, it tracks the sun and heats up a fluid that's pumped to thermoelectric generators. And so we were able to like generate the heat right away. And it's been a test and retest with different fluids that we've been experimenting with as far as what we're heating up is heat transfer fluid, and we've tried all different things from, well, we started with water and then glycol, and then I think now we're at a brake fluid. We had switched to something else, something called Crytox, I remember. So, and so many occasions when we were doing our testing, there was leaks happening, and so it's super encouraging to know that we have things healed up at last.
No leaks.
And, yeah, so no leaks is super, super important. We've had lots of experience, lots of failure because of leaking. So it's very exciting that it's not leaking. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and we're coming to a point where we can scale it up or potentially re-engineer the system to be used in some better or more efficient way, or who knows. It's been a lot of transition from so I did a blog post earlier, and I put on there an old video from 2013, and if you look at that old video, Larry, I don't know, it still has that big black insulated tubing that we were using at one point, and now it's totally different. And then right below it is a Facebook video where I show what it looks like today. And the first video was still in the back of the body shop, and the second video is like now that it's at the farm. So Larry, Dan kind of gave us a bit of a brief description of your test at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So what did you want to share with us as far as where we're at today?
It's awesome.
Uh,
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. That's the very first test that we've had where everything went as planned, and we didn't have anything happen that wasn't supposed to happen. So I don't think it gets, when it comes to testing, I don't think it gets better than that. When things work the way they're supposed to go, you know you're making progress, and we're definitely making a lot more progress now that Dan's on the team. That's for sure. And I don't know if Dan mentioned anything about what's coming up, what we're working on right now.
no, I never mentioned installation.
Yeah, well,
I thought I'd let you do that.
yeah, we had a little discussion with Dennis, who's another part of our team, as that's where the equipment is set up on his property, and we discussed the possibility that we're losing a little too much heat from our expansion bottle and the return line. And so right now, as we speak, we're just in the process of making some super insulated sheathing that's going to go over the bottle as a cover, and also wrap the line, the return line, the same way the line to the feed line is wrapped up with the pyrogel, our own version of foil covered pyrogel. So that should be completed here within the next couple of days, and the forecast is sunshine in 2 days. So looks like we have 4 solid days of direct sunlight to do more testing.
Another thing that I wanted to point out with in regards to the whole project is that it's faring fairly well as far as the elements go. Looking at the 2 videos and comparing 3 years difference between the equipment, how it was then and how it is now, the elements, like as far as wind and sun and rain and all that kind of stuff, have not really had much of an effect on very much of the equipment. Like there's a little bit of surface rust on some of the parts, but other than that, and some of the paints like come off from when we painted it for that trade show. But other than that, it's like been holding up to the elements really, really well, which is super important, and because it's an outdoor installation for sure. Using the sun, you got to be out in the elements for that. So I've been really impressed with how it's fared in regards to that, which is also super encouraging.
Oh, for sure. It's I'm really satisfied with how the tracking system's working. It's been pretty much flawless on all our tests. We haven't blown fuses in a long, long time. So on that end of things, that is provided by our tracking guy in Denver, Colorado. And the name of the company escapes me right now, but we worked with I believe his name is Justin, and we've worked closely with Justin to make sure the tracking system works, and especially our custom-made our double reduction gear motors that are basically recycled power window motors from vehicles are working outstanding at a fraction, and by fraction I mean a very, very small fraction of the cost of standard tracking motors. They're very powerful, and they've done the job, and like you say, they're withstanding all the elements where they're located in all seasons, summer, winter, and fall. And as it people are watching this and they don't know what winters are like here in Alberta, in the central Alberta, we can get some pretty nasty weather where it's -40 below, and these uh, power window motors are still working. So if they work if they're designed to work in your car to roll down your windows, they'll work outside in any condition. So
Yeah, pretty much most of that stuff has been sitting outside for 5 years plus. I think we've been working on this for 7 years now, or coming up on 7 years.
Exactly, and when we are testing those motors, or when we're testing the equipment, those motors fire up right away. We haven't had a problem that I can remember of them operating
For
as
you
soon as.
kicking it at that one trade show, remember I kicked it?
Well, yeah, now we have a protective shield over that, so that won't happen again. That was something that was definitely necessary. You have to protect the all the controls and everything. So, being that this is a prototype, we're learning as we go. Every time something comes up, and like I say, working with Dan now, I can see things and Dan can see things, and we can confirm that. And basically working with Dennis as well, both these gentlemen's backgrounds and life experience really provide a lot of inertia or forward movement for the project. You know, none of us are scientists from MIT or anything like that, or Stanford. We're amateur scientists, I guess, that all have a common goal, and that is renewable energy, and having a machine that does a really good job providing that.
Yeah, and it's been super fascinating. In the 7 years, we incorporated King Sunshine October of 2011, so we've actually been in corporation for 5 years, and during that time, it's just been fascinating to watch the evolution of other companies and knowing that they are experiencing a lot of the same things that we experience. The perfect example is of the Ivanpah, and we've been kind of watching them with great curiosity as we've been developing what we're working on, because it's a very similar concept. They're on a huge scale though, and so they're basically creating the same kind of super concentrated heat, but they're using mirrors, if you're not familiar with Ivanpah. And they actually had these birds that were getting zapped by the intense heat rays from the mirrors that were reflecting, and as they would fly by, they'd be like zapped out of the sky. And they actually came up with some solution for that, so it's all for like every business, and even if you're in another industry, you can understand that it's always a problem-solving journey of discovery. So that's definitely what we've been on, and it's interesting to see other parallel companies and even in different industries the same evolution that has to happen in creating something out of nothing to be able to have a sellable product where once something didn't exist. Super fascinating. So did you have anything to add about that, Larry?
That's a really good point. Comparing our technology with Ivanpah, I think if you look at when we got started, I think a lot of our focus, even before we started figuring out what we were going to do, was that we wanted to be completely free from any unexpected hazards, such as interfering with agriculture or interfering with nature or wildlife. And I think we really addressed that right at the beginning. And so, as far as I can see, still based on our current prototype, we even because our prototype is lifted up off the ground in such a way we're still allowing grass to grow underneath or whatever vegetation there is underneath our equipment that is not bothered by having this solar heat collector functioning. And I'm not sure if, well, Ivanpah, like you say, and some of the other ones, I can't remember the name of the one we were just reading about the molten salts. Do you recall that one, Dan? What's the name of that?
Oh, the molten salt. No, I'm not too sure of the name. I looked at it a couple times.
Yeah, well, they've had the same issues that Ivanpah had, and they say they've corrected the problem, but we didn't. We didn't have to relocate any kind of wildlife in our
No.
design or anything like that. So I think that kind of puts you ahead of the game. Plus, in the long run, people are going to be able to have this equipment operating in their backyard, and they won't need a giant desert to set up a whole bunch of mirrors. It's
No.
it's a little bit different.
It's more for the individual households.
Yeah, and it unlike it could be scaled up.
Scaled up, but it is for the individuals. Where some of these projects,
right.
they don't scalable. They can't scale them down.
Yeah, it'd be tough to make a lot of energy with one mirror.
Yeah, you wouldn't be frying ants as a kid with a mirror on the sidewalk. That wouldn't work too good. You need a lot of them.
Well, you got to work with nature. You don't.
That's right.
You don't want to destroy it in the process.
Yeah, so it's a major part of this project from the get-go. That was one of the main concerns, is to leave nature to do its thing and work, like Dan says, work with nature and have it be a part of the entire project. Is really quite important.
Well, and my usual spiel that I've given on lots of these hangouts before is the whole thing that I love oil and petroleum products and the oil and gas industry. I really do. There's so many so much value I get out of that, like my toothbrush and my hair dryer and cell phones and all those kind of things that are made wonderfully from plastic. And the beautiful thing about plastic is that it can be like recycled over and over and over and over again. However, I think that as a society, we have a responsibility to use the resources wisely. And every time that you burn any kind of oil or petroleum product or gas, not only are you creating poison from whatever smoke or emissions are created when you burn it, but it's gone forever. And there's no possibility of recycling it once you burn it. So it's just a matter of, being in harmony with nature and using the resource. It's not so much that that industry would ever go away, but it's just managing and using the resource in the most beneficial way possible. And like being able to take oil and recycle it, and how immense the opportunity is to just over and over and over again to be able to take this material and turn it into something new. Like, so it's just a matter of transitioning the way that the resource is used. So it's not that we're like against oil and gas or anything. It's just that we're for harmony with nature as far as using those resources. So
exactly. I was going to mention too, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, if people are watching and tuning into this, is available on the King Sunshine website, which is kingtriples.ca. We're now pretty much everything that happens from here on in is being updated on the website. So if you're always curious as to where we are with our experimentation, that's the best place to get the most current information is on the website. And I've actually gone in there myself and gone back and covered a bunch of milestones under the our story tab. And so on the home page is current information, and then on the our story section, it talks a lot more about the past and the patents and the intellectual property. Something else that I should mention is there's been things that we've done in the past since we applied for the patent on the Electrocrown that is basically intellectual property that we're not talking a lot about yet because we're not sure if it's going to qualify for patents. So, but there's been some things that we've done recently over the past few weeks that I'm thinking that it is quite unique, and I don't think it's been done before. So that's something that we're going to be addressing, I'm sure, after this next insulated test. I'm pretty sure this insulating these return lines is going to change things quite dramatically the more I think about it. And the goal is, I don't know if Dan mentioned, is to make sure that the heat coming back into the solar heat collector is at a higher temperature than it is right now. And that's just by protecting the heat with by insulating it, keeping it protected.
Once you got the heat, to keep it longer.
That's right.
The system will start earlier and then maybe last longer in the day.
Right. And
well,
in doing...
I'm kind of confused because I thought that you had dealt with that with like vacuum jacketed tubing, or you're using a new tubing now. Is there any way to like use a similar like thermos idea or whatever like you were talking about before with the tubing that you're using now?
Well, we went from vacuum jacketed tubing or piping, they call it, is really expensive. It's like $300 per foot or something ridiculous. And we discovered a material that was used by NASA, and it's sold by a company, I believe they're called Aerogel, and Aspen Aerogel, yeah, that's their name. They've got something that they call a pyrogel product, which pretty much works the same way as a vacuum jacket. From all the components that a lot of the key components, especially in the Electrocrown, use this material with a reflective foil that we've found a way of putting onto it, which is quite unique. And it's, from what I've seen the doer do, or any kind of vacuum jacketed container, this stuff works just as good. In fact, some people think it works better. I've read some reports on the material itself, and it's really quite amazing. So, but what you were talking about, mentioning this vacuum jacketed tubing, we tried that. We had a lot of issues because of the materials we were using, so it really didn't hold a vacuum very long. And like I said, to buy the actual steel, stainless steel type of material, it's very costly and probably wouldn't be good for this application in the first place. And so what we're talking about doing is not the line that's going to the Electrocrown now. We're working on the line coming out of the Electrocrown and then going back into the solar heat collector. So it's a fully closed loop system with all components will be completely insulated except for the area where we're actually using the direct sunlight to create the energy, to create the heat energy. And in that location, what we used to call the kaboomer is now a new design, which we're not going to talk a lot about the design because this is another area where I think there is a very strong potential for intellectual property. So we're not talking a lot about how we're collecting the heat now, but it's more efficient than the doer that we used in the past. It's a lot faster, heats the liquids up quicker, and can move. We should be able to move it a lot quicker through the electrocrown as well once all the tubing is insulated. It's going to generate a lot more heat a lot quicker.
That will be awesome, and hopefully that will result in a higher reading on electricity. And yeah, definitely keep an eye on Larry's website, kingsss.ca, and I definitely want to be there present for the next test at high noon. And be able to document it with my video camera, and then we'll post up a video so that people can see it, like some of the previous tests that we did. That'll be super valuable for people, I think. And hopefully it won't be long before I get my wish at last of being able to actually like plug in a microwave and make popcorn or something on a video.
Yeah.
Well, we could make popcorn on the inside really well.
Yeah, right.
You could just fill the inside of the solar heat collector and make a whole bunch of popcorn.
Yeah, but people want to make popcorn with microwaves, Larry.
Right.
It wouldn't be practical to make it in there, but it
Yeah,
would certainly do it.
most definitely. Well, we should also mention that since the electric crown that we have on the unit right now is also a prototype, and it's also scalable. I think that might be mentioned on the website. It might not be. I know it's mentioned in the patent application. The thing is, the electric crown, since it was remade, because once we got back from Germany, it was in a bit of a shambles. Didn't survive the trip too good, so we had to pretty much rebuild it from scratch. And the thermoelectric generators that are on the inside have been through a lot, because those are the original thermoelectric generators that we had even before we went to Germany. So it's questionable as to what condition they're in right now. We could have them tested after we have the results of our next test. I think that would be a good idea to take it to an electronics place and just have them check how the tags are actually holding up. Because like I said, they've been through a lot. We've had some mishaps due to severe weather, where the electric crown actually flew through the air in a windstorm, and so it seems to all still be connected well on the inside, which is quite a relief and a good sign that it's well made. However, where the actual life of the tags is still something that I would like to maybe have an expert come in on one of our hangouts that we do, and maybe give us a little more insight as to what the life of these thermoelectric generators really are, because that's kind of an unknown, as even with the supplier that we have, because the supplier that we have is getting them overseas, and he really doesn't know a lot. He doesn't have a lot of information on the science of thermoelectric generators.
Yeah, that's a good point. If they are deteriorated, then we could make a lot more electricity with new ones.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I read a little information on the internet. There's so much I couldn't retain all that information. There seems to be quite a different ways you can do it, or there's specialty for certain different areas.
Yeah, and there's different ones that work at different temperatures. The reason why we went with 200C is the temperatures that we work at, is because it's an easy temperature to work at. It's pretty common. The thermoelectric generators at that temperature range are very common, and a lot of them are manufactured for use in computers. So I think, and that's kind of an important part of what we do, is the only special components in this project basically are designed and manufactured in house. So we pretty much know what we're putting together on our end. So when it comes to using things like power window motors or brass fittings, things like that, or thermoelectric generators, that those industries are pretty well established and they know a lot about their components. So it sure eliminates a lot of worry for us when it comes to how our equipment's going to perform.
Yeah, that's awesome. So definitely I'm excited about being there and documenting what we come up with. Um, so definitely, I don't know if it would make more sense to send the thermoelectric generators that we have out for testing or just to purchase new ones to experiment with. And
I sure would
then,
like to purchase like 10,000 of them. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, that would be. But I don't know. I'm not totally sold on the thermoelectric generators. There's a lot of talk about the inefficiency that exists initially. So maybe we're better off doing the supercritical steam and what we were talking about before with the Stirling engine. The reason that we actually put the thermoelectric generators in the system and not the Stirling engine was that we had a resource issue, and we were looking at the Stirling engines, and they were like $5,000 or something like that, and we were like, and we didn't really have that at the time, and we weren't sure exactly where we could get it. And as we were looking for the financing to be able to purchase the Stirling engine, we ended up stumbling upon tags, and I think we paid like less than $2,000 for the ones that we have now. I don't know if you
Well,
remember that.
yeah, I remember. We kind of also found out that the Stirling engines were quite expensive to manufacture in comparison to the cost of thermoelectric generators. And I think it's something important to mention that the direction we went in, since we opted for thermoelectric generators, was to work with moving a hot fluid around, which would not be as practical if we were to use a Stirling engine or a Brayson type of design, simply because it's a completely different process. And however, possibly I was looking at steam turbines for actually using the heat that we're generating to run steam turbines, because there's a lot of different types. There's the ones with that are very large that are used for providing power to the power grid. They're very sophisticated and they run at extremely high temperatures. So I think what it boils down to is the intellectual property of the electrocrown. Although thermoelectric generators might not be very efficient right now, you have to remember that it wasn't too long ago that solar panels were putting out 18% efficiency. That was not very long ago.
Yeah, everything's always improving all the time. That's why it's such an awesome time to be alive.
And I think it's fair to mention that the thermoelectric generators haven't been on the front burner simply because I don't think anybody's tried to use them in the way that we're actually using them. So I think something that would be important for the company to do in the near future is to hook up with a person that's got some expertise in that area of thermoelectric generating.
Yeah.
I know the materials that they use in thermoelectric generators are not difficult to find. It's if you don't know already, a thermoelectric generator works very similar to the way um, a thermocoupler works. They're very similar principles where you have two different metals and one side is hot and one side is cold and they produce an electrical current. That's the basis of it. It's also called the Seebeck effect, and that's what the technology is based on. A lot of work and research hasn't really been done on improving them or making them better. They're designed to do a certain thing right now. That's what I mean. If we had a lot of these in our application, we'd be able to produce, it wouldn't matter what the efficiency is. Our footprint would remain small because we don't go horizontally. We actually build vertically. And when you build vertically, you create more power with a smaller footprint on the ground. And I think that's going to be key, which will make our design a lot different than anything else on the market.
Yeah, for sure. That's people are always talking about it. I don't know, that makes a lot of sense, that whole footprint thing, but it's a big buzzword and people like to talk about it. So if you're a company, then you want to talk about it too. That's what marketing's all about, right?
Yep, and we might end up changing a few of the laws as far as the amount of power that can be put out in a square meter of sunlight, direct sunlight. I think a square meter is something like 1,000 watts or something, isn't it, Dan?
Oh, a square meter of sunlight?
Yeah, a square meter.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I've never really worked on those figures, but
I think it's something like 1,000 watts.
you mean a photovoltaic?
No, just the basic power of the sun.
The basic, yeah. Well, I know it's a lot more than people realize.
That's right. And so
Pretty sure the figures
I think by using good insulation and going vertically with our design, we're just going to be ahead of the game because footprint is an important issue. If you only have a certain amount of area, say if you're in the city, you can't have a lot of photovoltaics.
No.
They take up a lot of space. I think I read somewhere a long time ago that photovoltaics would take up 3 times as much of the space that you have in order to power your average home.
That's where we got to do a better job of being efficient with the electricity we're using.
Yeah.
And
but I just mean in general terms, based on what they have out there right now.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I know one thing is you might want to use a gas stove instead of it's too costly for photovoltaics to use to run an electric stove.
Or you can use solar heat.
Yeah.
I talked to Trish about that years ago about actually, like you say, rethinking the way we use energy, using solar heat. If we're able to create a moving fluid that is insulated and can provide 200 degrees Celsius heat, that's enough to run your oven.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's lots of different ways of doing it.
That's right.
They say there's enough sun energy hitting the Earth, in one day that we could use that much energy in a whole year.
Yeah.
So the potential is huge. Just gotta learn to capture it, and batteries, so we can use it at night.
Yeah. So getting back to what we're doing, I think I still believe that we're ahead of game, and I don't mean to be boasting about it or anything, but when it comes down to brass tacks, as they say, it's a whole different concept.
Yeah.
And we should know a lot more in the next few days, that's for sure.
You run tests consecutive days to see what happens.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Getting some general patterns.
Yeah, we haven't proven the longevity of the system at all. Like any time that we've tested it, I don't think it's run more than an hour or two, maybe.
Maybe even a one-day test would be nice, eh? A
Yeah.
full,
It
full,
definitely would. It's definitely needed and an unknown factor to how the tracking system. Well, it's a little bit. We've been able to see how it recovers from the clouds and stuff, but there's a bit of a safety issue because if cloud cover comes in and it's tracking the sun and it has to track back, there's potentially like damage because as the lens goes back to be in the right spot for the sun, it can potentially still like burn the inside of the equipment. As
Well, that's avoided by, we haven't used this feature from our the manufacturer, but there's something it has called dead reckoning, and what
okay.
it does, it's another robotic kind of thing here, where the solar tracker actually teaches itself to follow the sun. When you switch on this dead reckoning feature, it
Oh,
knows where, yeah, it knows where the sun is all the time, even if the sun goes behind clouds. So after 365 days of the dead reckoning feature on, you just let it run and it knows where the sun is at all times.
okay. Well, we still haven't got to test that yet, though, so that'll be
No, no. We haven't gotten that far. We got, like Dan says, we got to try the full day, and that's coming up here pretty soon.
baby
yeah.
step. But it's nice to see no leaks, producing heat right away. Once it's insulated, it should keep that heat longer. Start it earlier and keep it longer is what the idea is. So we produce electricity longer, especially in the short
Yeah.
days of the sun.
Yeah, I feel like we're Larry's like Edison and we're his little minions and he's just trying to perfect the light bulb because like it works now, so just like the light bulb did, but it's a matter of proving and like
Perfect.
that was Edison's whole thing was to get that light bulb to be useful because if it burns out in an hour and you have to change the bulb every hour, people would just rather stick with their oil lamps, right? So we have to make it so it breaks people into that place of wanting it because it's been proven to be
Yeah, you have to
better.
prove consistency.
Yeah, and people like around here anyway, people are not overly concerned with the whole footprint and a lot of the stuff you guys were talking about. They're concerned with their bank accounts and the dollars they can save. So that's unfortunately, like that's not the focus for us in the project, but for our potential consumers, that's the focus. So that's where marketing comes in. So we got about 10 minutes left here, and so I'll just kind of explain to you guys my role in the mastermind. Like I'm not at all the tests, and I'm not involved in a lot of the building of the equipment or running the equipment or any of that. My role in the project has been with financing, and so due to that, I've been we're going along pretty good with our the recycling company that I own in being able to use our profits from that business to invest into our solar technology. And then we started with the patenting process. And during the patenting process, because Larry and I, neither one of us are all that keen on mastering patent law, so we turned to a patent attorney and patent agents. And if you've dealt with any kind of legal, if you've ever had any kind of legal requirement in business or in life in general, then you know that can get very expensive when you start paying for attorneys and agents in regards to patents. There was some big bills on the horizon as far as being able to purchase and file these patents, and so I was looking at, actually heard a radio ad and responded to do business that they had advertised as making money on the internet, and it turned out to be like a MLM network marketing company, and they like signed me up and got me to invest like thousands of dollars into these products, and they kind of pulled back the curtain on me, and it was like, okay, well, we want you to like go to your local community center and teach weight loss classes and have parties and give people samples of this product, this like weight loss shake, right? And I was like, no, 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 that's not what I signed up for. I wanted to I wanted to be able to generate income on the internet to fund the project. And so I happened to come along an ad that was talking about this MLM company that I was in and how I would be able to sell the products on the internet. And when I responded to the ad and got involved with the company that teaches the skill of network marketing, I totally like gave up on the weight loss shakes and have been completely focused on internet marketing. And basically, it doesn't matter what product or service that you want to provide, your competitive edge will always be marketing on this planet. Like when you look at like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, that's like their whole a whole big focus of their advertising campaigns and stuff is getting the competitive edge over each other with the marketing. And I guarantee you that when Pepsi and Coke were first developed, there was probably hundreds of different companies that had different recipes for soda and cola, and there's still today lots of different variety, but the ones that are world known and that have really been able to achieve like a level of unbelievable supremacy in the marketplace is like Coke and Pepsi, because they had the best marketing. So by learning internet marketing, I know that once these guys have this prototype to the point where someone could purchase it and put it on the roof of their garage or on a pole in their backyard and start creating electricity and heat to either reduce or eliminate their utility bills, that that there's so much, like, there is an edge that we have with the actual equipment and the way that the system works. However, it's going to be very important to have compelling marketing in order to show people that proof in a, like, once the proof is there and that we can say that this thing will work for people, to be able to present it to them in a way that they easily comprehend that it is that it will be better for their bank accounts to make an investment, an upfront investment, rather than to stick with this like residual bill payment that goes on at the moment. So to be able to present that to people in a compelling manner, that's like where I come in with marketing, and it's super powerful to be working with a company that is focused on being at the like cutting edge of technology, and where technology and marketing is meeting is where this education that I'm receiving and these skills that I'm building are coming into play, and I just am excited to see how powerful it's going to be. And that's basically a lot of what this Hangout is all about, is that each time we do this, it goes on to it turns into a YouTube video, which can then be taken, and we can either take those videos and edit them and be able to edit out certain parts of the conversations that we're having about the technology, or we can potentially use them in some way to, and before we even have the technology, by sharing these Hangouts on the internet, we can attract customers to us before the product's even available for sale. So that's kind of what I've been learning, and through something called the Empower Network, where they've taught me how to create this Hangout and how to be able to even have the idea to do this. If I hadn't come across the community of internet marketers, I probably wouldn't even know what a Google Hangout is. And a lot of people out there are not aware of how powerful it is to be able to use Hangouts and to talk about your business or product or service or whatever you have and be able to present it to people in a compelling way. And I'm still learning. I don't know all of the ins and outs, which is why right after we finish this Hangout in a couple of minutes here, I'm going to be attending something called the Empower Hour, which is a weekly call that where people kind of share their stories about building an internet business. And I really connect with a lot of the entrepreneurs that have been successful with internet marketing because for the most part, they usually have to go through a lot of failure, like what we were talking about with our leaks in our system. Well, you create something on the internet called a sales funnel, and you can get leaks in that sales funnel too, like, you know, when websites are going to an error page, or when you have an advertisement that's taking someone to the wrong place and they're not receiving the message or the product offer that you were intending to send them to, and all these different things that can happen. So I really have connected with these entrepreneurs and how with what Larry and Dan are doing, and seeing the that with all business, it all follows the same formula of like product and sale, service and sale. There's no way of really getting around that. And the key is attracting customers, and that's what marketing is all about. It's about attracting the right people at the right time to the right offer, and that's basically what I'm going to be learning, and what I'm going to be learning in a couple of minutes once I get on the Empower Network. And anybody out there watching is invited to join us. There's a button below the Hangout, and I think even if you're watching this later, you can still click that link or that button and usually get a replay of a call, and it's just inspiring and educational and informative, and you learn the newest strategies and the latest success stories of people that have been able to create a business online. So Larry and Dan, did you have any final comments about our test on Saturday or our future tests? We'll be back on Monday or Thursday. It's Monday today. Larry?
If we get sunlight on Wednesday, I know what I want to talk about on Thursday.
Okay.
Because it'll be news.
I just muted you, Dan, because when your phone rang, so there's in the middle of the, if you move your cursor around the middle of the screen, there's a little microphone. It's probably red. There you go.
Okay. No, just looking for the test on Thursday with more sunlight.
Okay, so hopefully we'll have a big, awesome update for you guys on Thursday. So we'll be back here, same place, same time. Before we go, I just want to let everybody know I'm a firm believer that in this life, absolutely anybody can be, do, and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. And I choose everything, and I hope you all will too, because you can. So hop on the Empower Network and the Empower Hour and find out how. Thanks for watching, everybody. And if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture. Bye, guys.